Okay, so hello everyone. My name is Caitlin McConnell and I'm the mentoring coordinator or the mentoring manager for Women's Enterprise Center. So I run the mentoring program. I'm based out of the Victoria office and I have the pleasure of overseeing our mentoring program, which includes forums such as these. So if there is a topic that you'd like to consider for a future forum, please be sure to complete our follow-up survey and share your ideas with us. So I'm going to start by telling you a little bit about Women's Enterprise Center. So we're a nonprofit organization that's devoted to helping women start, lead, and grow their own business. We have a full range of services, which include business loans up to $150,000 with access to an additional $100,000 through a new partnership that we have with BDC. We also provide business advice, skills training, mentoring, resources, and a supportive community to help women entrepreneurs realize their business potential. We do this from our 3 offices. Our head office is in Kelowna, and then we have 2 smaller offices located in Vancouver and Victoria. Our passion at Women's Enterprise Center is to empower entrepreneurs to their business success. We are funded by the federal government through Western Economic Diversification, and this is part of their Women's Enterprise Initiative, which includes similar organizations in Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba. And you can learn more about our services and what we do and how we can support you through our website at womensenterprise.ca. So now for today's session, our topic is selling professional services to the Government of Canada. And to answer your questions this morning, we're excited to have Erin Yedenberg, Project Officer with the Office of Small and Medium Enterprises Pacific. So during today's session, you'll learn how to register your business in the Centralized Professional Services System, how the government purchases services and uses standing offers and supply arrangements, and which procurement tools a Government of Canada buyer uses for purchasing professional services such as pro services, learning services, translation and interpretation services, temporary help services, and the SELECT database. So with that, I'd like to welcome Aaron, and I'll hand it over to him for the presentation.
Thank you very much, Caitlin, and hello everyone. Thanks so much for joining me today and for inviting me to be a part of your Mentor Advisory Forum today. Okay. Sharing my screen here. So can you guys see the supplying professional services to the Government of Canada slide, the beginning?
Yes, I can. Looks good.
Okay, great. Great. Yeah, so thanks very much for having me. Thank you very much to Women's Enterprise Center. We really like working with you guys. You're a great group across the whole province and across the whole country as well. So really help us connect with business owners who are interested in and have the potential to be suppliers to the federal government. So thank you very much for that. And to all the attendees online, thank you very much for taking some time out of a beautiful summer's day to be online with me today. So my name is Aaron Eidenberg. I work for the Office of Small and Medium Enterprises. We are a branch of Public Services and Procurement Canada. PSPC is basically sort of the business arm of the federal government. We do a ton of common back-end business functions for all the other functional departments of the federal government. So we do a ton of real estate leasing, finding space for all the different, interesting workplaces and labs and all the different sorts of things that the federal government does, as well as some common HR and IT functions. But we also do procurement on behalf of other departments. So we're buying we're doing the contracting, we're buying all the things that various other federal government departments use to deliver on their mandates. In order to do that, of course, we want good competition. We want to support Canadian business. We want to improve the diversity of the businesses that are supplying those goods and services to the federal government, and that's really where OSME comes in. We were created when it was discovered that there were some barriers for small businesses to be able to do business with the federal government of Canada, and one of those large barriers is that our process is big and heavy and expensive, and it can take a lot of effort for small businesses to get through it. You know, if you're a small business and it's just you and one partner, or you and less than 10 staff, you know, even just reading through a 60-page RFP document, which is pretty common in the federal government context, you know, that's a really significant drain, significant usage of just the hours that you have available to you every week. So our office was created to try and simplify that process, try and help businesses to understand how that process works, so that we can save you time as you go through our process. So we do that in a couple of different ways. Primarily, it's through outreach, engaging, assisting, and informing small businesses like yourselves, like what we're doing today, on how our process works. Try and help you get to that decision point of for any and each given opportunity, can your business really succeed? Can your business really deliver on those sorts of things? And try and help you get to the point where you can bid on the efficient opportunities for you. We also have that fourth feature where we like to try and help businesses reduce the barriers that are there. So that's where I want to hear from you. So we'll make sure to leave some time at the end of today's session. We have till 11. Is that correct, Caitlin?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, cool. So we'll make sure to leave some time at the end so I can hear from you. If you have any questions for me, or if you're willing to share with us. I should say as well that we spend a lot of our time meeting with businesses one-on-one as well. So today's session, admittedly, we're going to be kind of at a 30,000-foot level and speak in general terms a lot. If you want to get into the weeds on your business, on the services that your business provides, and specifically how the government buys it and what opportunities might exist out there, I'll leave today with my own contact information as well as the contact information of my colleagues. We're split in Vancouver and Victoria, but we're also out across the province every year, all the time. Or we can meet with you via Zoom or WebEx or any of these, just the phone or the internet. Any way that we can sit down with you and discuss your business, that's absolutely something that we do, and more than willing to take a meeting with you. So what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about what my office actually is. We've done that. We're going to talk a little bit about buyandsell.gc.ca. That's our tender website. Are people a little bit familiar with buyandsell.gc.ca? I don't know how you can raise your hand or anything to let me know, but it doesn't matter if you're not. If you are, that's great, but if you're not, we'll look at it a little bit today. We'll talk about standing offers and supply arrangements, what they really are. We'll talk about some of the most frequently purchased professional services from the federal government. And then we'll dive into a bit of details on one of the most well-used arrangements, which is pro services specifically. We'll look at some data around that and how to actually register your business and apply for that supply arrangement. Then we'll look in general at some of the other methods of supply that we use for some of those other professional services and key contacts, and of course, leaving some time for questions. Are there any questions so far? I don't know that I can see on my end if questions get popped up.
I'll let you know if any questions come.
Okay.
Or no.
Okay. So buyandsell.gc.ca. Just really quickly, if you haven't been to the site, it's a free access site for all federal tenders. So that's mandated by our trade agreements. Any business has to have free and open access to what the government is buying and to the data back in time historically a little bit as well. I think we go back to 2009 on buy and sell. For any contract that PSPC signed over $25,000 will appear on buyandsell.gc.ca. We'll also give some data about the standing offers and supply arrangements. We'll talk about what that actually means. And you can find some information on OSME, our seminars, the webinars that we offer. I've left a link at the bottom of that slide that goes directly to the Pro Services tender. I think that's probably what a lot of us are aiming at, so just that'll be a theme that'll come up again and again throughout the seminar today. So the standard way that buyandSell.gc.ca will work is sort of the typical government tendering process. We spend a lot of time defining our requirements, what we need to buy, and how we're going to pick a company who can supply that to us. We post that on buyandSell.gc.ca. It's a public notice. It's open for typically 40 days. That allows time for some back and forth, ask some questions, clarify what those requirements actually mean. We accept bids. The tender closes. We evaluate those bids, and we select a winner based on the criteria that we set up. That's sort of the standard tender process. Now, for certain goods or services, the kinds of things that we're buying again and again and again and again, like a lot of professional services, it doesn't make sense for us to go through that entire process every single time we need to buy a consultant to come in and do some facilitation for us. It just wouldn't be economical, it wouldn't be efficient. So we use standing offers and supply arrangements. Now, these are special types of procurement vehicles, and what they basically do is create pre-qualified lists. So we can sort of, at the front end of our process, qualify a lot of companies that we know are able to supply those goods and services, and then whenever actual requirements come up, we can just sort of choose among those pre-qualified companies. We don't have to go through all of that qualification every single time we need to buy one of these things. So it saves time for us, and it saves time for you as a bidder, because you only have to go through some of those qualifications one time. The difference comes in between standing offers and supply arrangements in the kinds of good or service that we're buying. So a standing offer is used. I like to think of a standing offer like a catalog. Everything is at predetermined prices, and anytime a buyer in the federal government needs something from that catalog, they can simply create a contract by making a call-up out of the catalog. So office supplies is a perfect example. It doesn't make any sense for us to host a big competition every time we need to buy a couple of keyboards. We just, we have some standing offers with Staples or Lyrico or any of the other office supply companies, and when somebody needs a new keyboard, they can find the keyboard that they want in a catalog and make a purchase at a price that's been advertised to us. Now, that's a little different from a supply arrangement, which we use when we need to have a little bit of negotiation still. So it's like a standing offer, but we don't have predetermined prices. We don't have predetermined scope of work. Anytime a requirement comes up, we're going to need to host a mini competition among a bunch of firms that are pre-qualified. So a lot of professional services that are contracted for from the federal government come through these standing offers and supply arrangements. And the list on the slide that's in front of you guys right now is a list of some of the most common, most frequently purchased professional services that are covered by supply arrangements. A huge range of these are covered by the professional service supply arrangement. And this is just a little graph to try and help clarify what actual vehicle you might want to target if you are thinking of applying for a supply arrangement with the federal government. So there's a huge range of professional services, both IT, information technology, and non-IT professional type services. The most important sort of barrier within that, or segregation within that, is the NAFTA contracting limit of $106,000. So NAFTA, a free trade agreement we have within North America, sets out that any professional service, any services contracts which are greater than $106,000 must be made available to the other countries that are partners within NAFTA. So what this is saying is that if the government of Canada has an IT project that is over $106,000, we must make sure that American companies are eligible to apply on that opportunity, the same way that opportunities in the United States over $106,000, Canadian companies are eligible to apply on it. So when Canada created our supply arrangements for these professional services, we created a line there at that same NAFTA limit. So any project which is under that limit, under $106,000, goes through pro services. So if you want to apply to supply some IT or non-IT services for a project that's under $106,000, you must first be qualified on the pro services supply arrangement. Above that NAFTA limit, it splits. So there are different vehicles for the non-IT and for the IT professional services. And the requirements go up then. So the requirements to get into pro services are fairly simple. They are that you've been in business for 1 year, 12 months, and that you can pass a security clearance process. So that's getting fingerprinted by the RCMP and providing a little bit of information about yourself. When you get up into those supply arrangements that are over the NAFTA limit, the years in business requirement goes up to 3 or 5. We start imposing some requirements around revenue in the past year and on total sales volume in the past year. So those projects are getting bigger and bigger. We want to make sure that the businesses that are qualified to supply those services have experience and have the scope and have delivered projects like that in the past. So on the non-IT side first, we have one supply arrangement which covers all of the non-IT services above the NAFTA limit. It's called TSPS, or Task and Solution-Based Professional Services. And then on the IT side, we have what we call TBIPs or SBIPs, so that is task-based informatics processing services and solution-based informatics processing services. And they are tiered. So the task-based one tends to be lower value with less stringent requirements than the solution-based. What's the difference between a task-based service and a solution-based service? In a task-based service, we are telling you exactly what work needs to be done. We know what work needs to be done. We just need to hire a contractor to come in and do that work. So we've set out all the tasks. In a solution-based service contract, we don't know what the answer is. We don't know what the solution is to a problem that we have. So we are not only asking for you to do the work, but for a company to come up with how to do the work and what that solution is going to look like to solve our problem. So one of the most common supply arrangements that we use, there's tons of contracts on it, and I have some data that I'm going to share with you guys, is pro services. So again, this covers a huge range of both IT and non-IT services under the NAFTA limit, $106,000. There are 158 different categories of work that are covered under pro services. And you must submit, in order to qualify for pro services, you must submit a bid online that provides some reference for your experience in at least one of those 158 categories. That link at the bottom will take you to a page that provides more information about pro services, including a list of all of those categories, all those streams and categories. Last year, in fiscal year 2018-19, PSPC issued almost 1,600 contracts under pro services alone for almost $45 million. And you can see the breakdown there between the IT portion of those contracts and the non-IT portion of those contracts. There were almost 1,000 contracts for non-IT professional services, almost $20 million. And a little bit more money in less contracts for the IT services. If we look at just the IT services, these are the 7 streams that make up the work covered under the IT services of pro services. There's some additional data there around the number of contracts and the average contract value. I do have this all split up by the individual streams as well. So that's the kind of thing that we can talk about in a one-on-one meeting. If you want to look at specifically, if you think you know what stream and category you're going to apply for, we can look at the actual business volume that was issued through that stream and category and assess whether or not, what the value is there for you as a business. The highest number of contracts, no surprise, were issued for just a sort of straight business consultant through the IT portion of Pro Services. Those are the most commonly used streams and categories. And then for the non-IT side of professional services, the most common one by far was for the human resources services. And you can see as well that the average contract value for these non-IT professional services tends to be a little lower than the value of the IT professional services. And a lot of these come in under the $25,000 threshold. Now, if you've seen any of our other seminars before from OSME, or if you've explored very much federal government contracting information, $25,000 is a threshold that shows up a lot. It's sort of a rule of thumb around how much authority departments have to create contracts on their own. So for contracts below $25,000, the process is a lot easier for us to make a purchase, to contract with you as a supplier. We don't have to go through our 40 days of having a bid open and available on buy and sell, for example. We can meet our competition requirements by just getting quotes on the phone or via email. Now, within the non-IT professional services through the Pro Services contract, even though it can be easier for us to contract with you, you still have to be on that Pro Services supply arrangement in order to get the contracts that are less than $25,000. We signed a lot of contracts through the leadership development consultant category. There were a ton through that, and more than doubled in the next closest category through the non-IT services. And again, I have a lot more of this data available, including which streams and categories had no business, had no contracts through them in the last year. So this can be really useful data to you if you're preparing a Pro Services application. Really encourage you to reach out to us and sit down with us to look at the categories that you're thinking of applying on. There's also something within Pro Services that's very important. It is an open call for proposals, so it is always open. If you look at the buy and sell link, I think the closing date is in the year 2100, which is bizarre from a government contracting point of view. But what it basically means is that it is always open. You can submit an application at any time to the Pro Services supply arrangement. However, they only conduct reviews at the end of each quarter. So if you're madly trying to submit your application right now in the middle of August and get it in as soon as you can, that's really not necessary. Take your time. Make sure everything in there is correct and fulsome and you've got all the information that you need, and just make sure that it's submitted by the end of September, and it won't change when that review actually happens. So we're going to look at a couple of different places where you can register your business. So the first is SRI, the Supplier Registration Information System. You can find this right at the top right-hand corner of the buyandsell.gc.ca webpage. It's the first sort of thing that will ask you to do as you start your bidding journey. All you need to register in this system is your business number from CRA and your business's name exactly the same as it was registered with CRA. So our system links with the CRA business registration system. So if the name is not entered exactly the same, it'll error and it'll kick you back out. What this does is it gets you your procurement business number. Now, you don't need that procurement business number to look at what opportunities exist, and in most cases, you don't even need it in order to bid. Typically, the PBN, the procurement business number, is used for us to make payments once the contract is complete. That's how our direct deposit system works. However, for these online registration systems, to make an online bid for pro services or some of those other supply arrangements that are online, your profile will be based on your PBN. So you must first apply for the PBN. When you get that PBN, then you can apply for pro services. And you do that through the CPSS. I know, I'm government, I love my acronyms, right? And by the end of today, I'm sure you'll be tired of hearing a bunch of 3- and 4-letter acronyms from me. But these links here on this page take you to the Centralized Professional Services System, CPSS e-portal. This is where you can actually make, you can actually submit a bid for pro services and get yourself on the pre-qualified list that we then use to hire contractors for professional services. So they call it the data collection component of the supplier module. And that's where you enter in that, yes, you do have more than 12 months of service. You identify what streams and categories your business, your firm is able to offer. You substantiate that experience with reference from previous projects. You certify that you are undergoing security clearance. You enter in a bunch of information about where your offices are and where you're willing to provide services. And then you submit that and wait for it to be reviewed once a quarter. Now, the CPSS system allows you to bid on the following tools. So pro services we talked about. That's a huge range of both IT and non-IT services under the NAFTA limit. Those next three there, TSPS, TBIPs, and SBIPs, those mirror the same streams and categories from pro services, but for higher value projects, for projects which are above the NAFTA limit. The CPSS system also allows you to submit bids on learning services, professional audit support services. So these are other professional services that we tend to buy a lot of, and you're eligible to bid on them through the CPSS e-portal. Our other sort of standard, commonly used professional services supply arrangements, which are not on CPSS, but will accept bids through sort of more traditional ways, either by email or by sending in an actual physical bid, are the following. Now, I should say, temporary help services, the THS, that is generally only used in Ottawa. We have a separate set of supply arrangements here in the region. If the kind of services that your firm offers are temporary help services, reach out to me, let me know, and I can help you find it. Select is one of the most common standing offer supply arrangements that we use. It's for all kinds of services around construction and engineering services. It's, again, a very, very, very large supply arrangement, and we can help you find that. Some of the other services are there. Generally, they will all have some sort of security requirement and will ask that you obtain a security clearance. In order to obtain a security clearance, the first thing that you need is sponsorship for that security clearance. Now, we use a sponsorship system because security clearance is expensive. It takes some work, and we don't just want to do it all the time for anyone who might possibly think that they want to be cleared in order to contract with the federal government. We offer that sponsorship for security clearance when there is a contracting opportunity that a business is targeting. Pro services counts. This is honestly the easiest way to get your security clearance, is to go to the pro services supply arrangement and contact them and request sponsorship for security clearance. They do this all the time. They will give you the paperwork that's required. They'll give you really clear instructions of what you need to do. Really, it's just going to an RCMP office and getting fingerprinted digitally. And they offer that at all times throughout the year at any point. So even if pro services isn't exactly the place where you think you have the best chance of getting work with the federal government, it is the best place to start to get that sponsorship for security clearance. And this is just some other information about how to reach the CSP. Now, what I'll do is go directly to the tender page, and I can show you the point of contact that I'm talking about. Can you guys see the web page that I have open, buyandSell.gc.ca?
I can't see it on mine. I still just see your slides.
Okay.
Oh, there you go. No, I don't see it.
Okay, how about now?
Yeah, great.
So this is the tender notice page for the pro services method of supply. So any tender notice page will look very, very, very similar to this. It always has a title, it tells you what it is, and then it has these sort of tombstone data information. You can see it closes 2100. So this is a tender notice that is open for a long time, in 80 years. Every single tender notice page will have this field on it, the contact information. The point of contact that they list there is your authority for asking any questions. And I think that's a barrier that is often assumed by businesses that doesn't actually exist, that just because we posted this up, there is no one that you can actually call and ask questions about how this works. The contact information, it is their job to respond to the supplier community and provide information about the tender notice that they're identified on. So Natasha Hickey is identified here on this page, and it lists a website or it lists an email address for her. The pro services team is great. We've had lots of really positive feedback from suppliers who've dealt with them. And like I said, so that's the place to start. Send an email to that address and reach out and say, hey, I'm interested in applying on pro services or TSPS or any of the other supply arrangements or standing offers. Doesn't matter which one. That's the point of contact on the tender that you'd want to reach out to and request sponsorship for security clearance. If you scroll all the way down to the bottom, they do give you
I think we might have, Aaron, can you hear us anymore? I think we might have lost Aaron on the phone. But maybe what we'll do while he's getting reconnected is we'll start asking for some questions regarding what's been discussed here. Does anybody have any questions that I can share with Aaron?
Hi there, can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're back.
Okay, I don't know what happened there, but I somehow got disconnected.
So I just started asking some people to put their questions in. So I don't know if you wanted to finish your part of the presentation there, Aaron. I don't know where you were. I just thought I'd get people.
I just got one thing further to show on this page, and then we can jump over to some questions if that works.
Yep. So you'll just have to reshare your page.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay. So we were looking at the tender notice page here and the description down the right-hand side. So this is a short description. If you want to see the actual legal requirements that are in place in order to bid, it's always in these solicitation documents down at the end, these PDF links. And when you open, in Pro Services in particular, when you open this one up, there's a very helpful bit. Attachment B is step-by-step instructions on submitting a Pro Services bid through the DCC, which, if you remember that acronym, is the data collection component of the Centralized Professional Services System. So scroll down to that page. It actually gives you screenshots, step-by-step, of everything you need to do and the links you need to go to in order to submit a bid through Pro Services. So this is really helpful. This doesn't always appear on tenders, particularly the ones that are managed through that DCC. But this is a very, very helpful resource, and more than willing to walk through it with folks as well if there's any difficulties. Okay, let's jump over to some questions then.
Yeah, so the first question I have is, do people who are applying, do they need security clearance before tendering?
Good question. And I don't want to give a general answer that's going to apply to everything, because it can be, you can see both. So there are specific instances where we will specify that security clearance must be held at the time the bid is submitted, and other bids will say security clearance must be obtained at the time of contract award. So those are two different things, and the wording will always be in the tender document. We have to be transparent about what we're doing. For Pro Services, it only needs to be in place at the time of contract award. So looking at the schedule for quarterly refreshes, if you're preparing your Pro Services submission today, you've just emailed them and you've asked for sponsorship for security clearance, you're in the middle of creating your form, you're going to go down to RCMP next week maybe. That whole process of getting your security clearance authorized could take 6 weeks, 8 weeks, a couple months easily. We're government, we move slow, that's the way things are. But you could still submit your application before the end of September, knowing that probably by the end of December, you'd be in good shape to have your security clearance in place. So that's a great question. That's exactly the kind of thing you want to be thinking about. But just make sure that you understand, we have to be transparent. We will always state when that security clearance is required. So it could be at the time of bidding, it could be at contract award.
Great. Another question is, are there any preferences for business size?
Are there any preferences for business size?
Yeah.
In these types of contracts, generally no. Pro Services, the only requirement is that you've been in business for 1 year. I see a ton of people get successful in Pro Services only as a solopreneur, only as a single operator, single proprietor.
Okay.
Generally, the way I see Pro Services work is once you've sort of validated the stream and category that you can provide, the actual service that you offer in a certain location, you will get invited. You will actually get emails. It's not like you're going to get 2 a day or 2 a week even, but every couple months, depending on where and what service you offer, you will actually get an email saying, hey, there's somebody who needs the kind of work that you've identified that you can provide and that you're qualified to provide, and they invite you to bid against a couple other companies that they've identified that are also pre-qualified, and usually those templates are really, really easy and quick to fill out. So I've seen some really good PDF templates that do the math for you and tell you exactly where you need to fill in information. So those are really helpful. I think that's honestly the best way we could do these sorts of things. It doesn't always happen that way, but generally that's what I see. It's not like you have to, once you're pre-qualified on pro services, it's not like you then have to keep watching buyandsell.gc.ca for anything that might come out that can fit your streaming category in your location. The other thing that I've seen work really well for companies who are on pro services is that they add it to their marketing materials. So when they start reaching out to government agents, and even like not just limited to the federal government as well, but as you start reaching out to other levels of government, municipal or provincial, showing that you've been through a federal process and you're pre-qualified at the federal level can often do a lot in other jurisdictions as well for you. And adding it to your marketing material. So within the federal government context, what you're doing there is signaling to us that you've already been through one of our processes successfully. You know how to work with government at least a little bit at the beginning. And secondly, you're letting them know that you can speak our language, you know what pro services is, you understand that it's a mandatory supply arrangement, and that if they want to buy from you, it's going to be a lot easier than buying from somebody else who is not already pre-qualified on pro services.
Great. And then another question, which I think you might have answered it, but it says, if we just get started, do we need to wait a year to apply?
Good question. So if you've just gotten started, again, I'm glad I have this quarterly refresh slide up as I'm answering this question. That requirement for 1 year of business is at the time that they evaluate your proposal. So again, let's just look at the scenario that we're preparing an application right now in August. They're going to review it in September, and they might award by the end of December. So if your company was created in November of last year, you could potentially submit now, knowing that by the time they award you a contract, you will have been in business for 1 year, and you would therefore meet the requirement at that point in time. So that 1 year in business applies at contract award, not at the time you submit a bid.
Okay. And do all employees at a vendor firm need to have security clearance for a standard bid?
Great question as well. No, at this point, no. So when you're applying for the pro services supply arrangement, when you're just trying to get on our pre-qualified list to begin with, we just clear the company. We clear you as the principal of the company. It's called a DOS, a Designated Organizational Security Clearance. Hey, there's another acronym. So at this stage, when we're clearing your company, no, we just want to clear one person, the principal of the company and the company on the whole. Then when it comes down to one of those specific requirements, say we're inviting you to bid on a specific requirement that we might have up in Kamloops or up in Whitehorse or something like that, and you've got a different resource. It's not going to be you that's actually doing that. You've got an employee who's up there in the Okanagan or up in the Yukon, and they provide the services for your company. Anytime a contractor is coming into one of our sites or handling any of our data, that person needs to be security cleared as well. So answer is, at this point, we only clear your company. But then when we get down to specific requirements, we may need to clear other individuals depending on who's actually going to be delivering the services.
Okay. Another question from Jennifer is, can you expand on what the facilitator category can include?
The facilitator category?
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Let's look right at the list of streams and categories. Let's just go right to it.
And just, I've had a couple questions of if the PowerPoint slides will be able to be shared, Aaron, and I think they can, right? We'll send it out in the follow-up email.
Absolutely. I think I sent the whole deck to you.
Yeah.
Just before we got started today. So by all means, share that as widely and as far as you like.
Okay.
And my email is available here in that deck as well. So if you're interested in more detail on some of the stats that are up there, or some of those, I don't necessarily have those same kinds of statistics for all the other supply arrangements, but I do have them for all the streams and categories within Pro Services. So if there's interest in some of that data, I'm happy to share that as well.
Great.
So the actual streams and categories are found here. So under IT, the stream 1, 2, 3. Is this being shared? Do you guys see this?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay. Cool. And then under the non-IT services, so we said stream 8 was the most widely used, the human resources services. So the question was about facilitator services, correct?
Yes.
So there's some facilitator consultant under change management, business consulting. And I believe there's some facilitator services. Yeah, so there's also like a different type of facilitation under alternative dispute resolution services, so like mediation and facilitating conversations. So there'll be different kinds of facilitation, but let's just look at this one first. So the kinds of so it gives you some examples here of the kinds of services that might be included and might be purchased under that stream and category. So in order to apply for Pro Services and say that, yeah, I'm a facilitator consultant, you would need to demonstrate that you've delivered a project, something like one of these bullet points in the past, and provide us with a contact that we can verify that with.
Okay. And so moving on to another question. So this one's from Lori, and it says, what if I'm self-employed but don't have a business name? Would I be able to go through Pro Services? I also don't have a business number because the income is reported as a professional income.
Thanks, Lori. Thanks for the question. So sole proprietorships do work. In those cases, your business name is just your name. But you do still need to be registered with CRA. I believe once you have revenue over a certain amount, you need to have like a GST number.
Yeah,
I think that is
over 30,000.
Over 30,000, right?
Yeah.
So if you have a GST number, you can apply, but you do need that GST number. It's just that your business name is then just your name.
Okay. Another one. So I think back to the other question, it was when you were answering, I think it was probably when you were answering the security clearance. It says principal being the applicant or majority shareholder. Oh,
I mean, it's just a representative of your company. It's not, it doesn't need to be the CEO, or it doesn't need to be the owner, it doesn't need to be any specific role. You just need to identify someone as sort of the principal, as sort of your representative.
Okay. And one more question. So if someone has their proposal ready, do you have people who will review it for them before they actually submit it?
No, that's actually something that we specifically cannot do.
Okay.
I'm happy to chat strategy. I'm happy to chat in general about how to successfully get through here. But what I can't do is evaluate it for you, and there's a couple reasons for that. Number one is that I'm not the reviewer, and I don't. It puts us in a really weird place if I tell you, yeah, this looks great, and then it gets rejected by the actual office. So I'm not the pro services reviewer. I'm not the contracting officer for any of these opportunities, and that is by design, so that I don't actually know any inside information. Right? Everything that's published on buyandsell.gc.ca, that is all public information. It's all open, fair, and the intention is that it is open, fair, and transparent, and that any conversation that you and I have, that any businesses have with me directly, I don't have any access to information other than what is contained right in that bid. So generally, we'll talk about, making sure that you respond to each and every requirement that is listed in the tender. That's the kind of thing we can talk about, or we can zoom way out, and I can say, hey, if the government was buying a unicorn, how would we buy that? And we can talk like in general terms about some other service that isn't actually what you're applying on. But yeah, we have to be a little careful about specific advice based on your live tender documents. When there is a live tender, all the questions have to go to that contracting authority. So again, the contact information point listed on any tender on buyandsell.gc.ca. Once the tender is open, they're the ones who have to answer questions.
Okay. And then another question just came in saying there doesn't appear to be a marketing category in the streams and categories. Is that correct?
Yeah, so not every service is covered under pro services. If you do marketing, there are, I don't even know that there is a supply arrangement, a master supply arrangement for marketing services. It really depends on what kind of marketing you do. So like, just as an example, as soon as there's a video involved, there is like a single contracting unit in Ottawa who does all contracting for any video.
Okay.
So, for web marketing, it'd be very similar. The government is understandably cautious about how we market and what we're able to market, especially with an election coming up that gets increasingly sticky. Mostly writing and translation, communication services such as writing and translation. Yeah. So Isabel, I'd encourage you to reach out to me directly, and we can help find the right opportunities that are there. But yeah, there's some translation services for sure that are covered under supply arrangements. And technical writing is covered under one of these streams, I believe. I think it's in the technical writing is covered under the project management services. So again, depending on what kind of writing or what kind of product it winds up being, it might be available. Yeah.
All right. Great. Well, I think that probably brings us to the end of the session here. I'm just gonna share my screen. So thanks, Aaron, very much for spending the time to tell us all about the process, and hopefully everybody has some really good information and has a starting point. Like I said, we'll send out a follow-up email, so that will include Aaron's contact information and then some colleagues at OSME that you can connect with about putting in a proposal. some things to also know about is we have some upcoming workshops that might be of interest to you. So take a look at that. And again, I just want to say thank you to Aaron for participating. And if you have any last kind of words you want to send us off with, please go ahead.
Yeah, for sure. Just thanks very much. And yeah, so we have a workshop coming up in 1 week. It'll be offered via webinar as well. It's done through Small Business BC, if anyone is familiar with that. So just registration is free online with Small Business BC, and it is offered. I do it here in person in Vancouver, but it's broadcast via webinar as well, so you can tune in from anywhere. It's our sort of all-in-one seminar on how to do business with the federal government. So I will talk about supply arrangements and standing offers like we've talked about today, but it also includes in it a big demo of the buyandSell.gc.ca website, how to navigate the site, how to really find opportunities, and then a bunch of strategies on how to actually create a bid and submit a bid for any opportunity that's open on buyandSell.gc.ca, not just these pro services contracts that we've looked at today. So maybe Caitlin, I'll include a link to that seminar to you just after today as well, so you can share that as well if anyone's interested.
Absolutely.
And then I think we're doing another mentor advisory forum with Women's Enterprise Center in November, I believe.
Yeah.
Potentially a workshop that's a little more interactive, so hopefully help people learn a little more hands-on rather than just listening to my government acronyms for an hour or so.
Yeah. So yeah, like I said, we'll send out the follow-up email, and that'll include all those links of some relevant information for you guys. It'll include the PowerPoint and then also a link to the recording. So thank you everybody for your participation. Have a great day.
Have a great day.